The courthouse was packed. Not because the case was high profile, but because it was personal. The town of Alder Creek didn't often see court trials, let alone one that split the community in two. But today, the wooden benches were filled, the air stiff with anticipation, and whispers traveled like wildfire between pews. Everyone had come to see the woman in uniform, a stranger to most, who dared to testify in a case that no one believed she had any business getting involved in. Her name was Captain Sarah Monroe. She walked into the courtroom with quiet confidence, her military uniform crisp and adorned with medals that sparkled under the courtroom lights. She carried no entourage, no lawyer at her side. Just herself and the truth. But instead of respectful silence, her entrance was met with muffled chuckles from one corner of the room, specifically, from the defendant's bench. John Baxter, a smug, well-groomed man in an expensive suit, leaned over to his lawyer and whispered something with a laugh. Others nearby followed his lead. The sight of a woman, especially one so seemingly young and soft-spoken, walking into the courtroom like she had something important to say, wearing a uniform no one recognized, was, to them, laughable. "She thinks she's someone important," John sneered under his breath. The judge, an older man with stern eyes but a kind face, banged his gavel. "Order in the courtroom. Captain Monroe, please take the stand." Sarah didn't flinch. She climbed the wooden steps and took her seat, placing her right hand on the Bible. "Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" "I do," she replied. And with that, the room grew still. The case itself was simple on paper, complicated in emotion. An elderly war veteran named Walter Grayson, nearly blind and barely mobile, had been evicted from his home after failing to pay property taxes on time. The man who bought the house at auction was none other than John Baxter, a wealthy land developer with a reputation for flipping homes for profit. What enraged many in the town was not that Walter had lost the house, but how quickly Baxter had moved in to take it. Within days, Walter was left homeless, sleeping in a shelter, his belongings dumped on the curb like garbage. When asked why he acted so quickly, John had smiled for cameras and said, "Business is business." But someone had stepped in. A mysterious woman in uniform had paid Walter's medical bills, found him temporary housing, and most notably, filed an injunction against John Baxter, claiming that Walter's rights had been violated under obscure federal protections for veterans. That woman was now on the stand. The opposing attorney smirked as he approached her. "Captain Monroe, is it? You claim to represent the interests of Mr. Walter Grayson. Can you explain your relationship to him?" Sarah nodded calmly. "I served under Mr. Grayson's command when I was just a cadet. He trained me. Protected me. And when I was injured during deployment in Syria, he was the one who carried me through the night back to safety, risking his life while I was unconscious and bleeding." The courtroom shifted. The whispers faded. "So you're here out of sentiment?" the lawyer scoffed. "Out of loyalty?" "I'm here out of duty," Sarah replied. "Because the country he bled for promised him dignity. And he deserves it. Not to be cast aside in the final chapter of his life." "But you're not a legal expert, are you?" "No," Sarah said. "But I'm a soldier. And more than that, I'm a human being." John Baxter, still relaxed, chuckled again from his seat. "And what rank is she, anyway?" he said, just loud enough for the room to hear. "Corporal? Sergeant? Maybe she got a badge from a costume shop." The room let out a nervous laugh. But Sarah didn't react. Instead, she reached into her uniform pocket and unfolded a document. With steady hands, she turned it toward the judge. "Your Honor, may I submit this as evidence of my standing?" The judge glanced at it, then paused, eyes wide. He adjusted his glasses. "Is this accurate?" "Yes, sir." He cleared his throat, then looked over his glasses toward the room. "For the record, Captain Sarah Monroe is not just a soldier. She is a highly decorated officer in the United States Army, currently holding the rank of lieutenant colonel. She has served 3 combat tours, earned 2 Bronze Stars, and was awarded the Silver Star for valor in active combat. Her commendations include recognition from the Department of Defense and a Congressional Medal of Honor nomination. Let it also be known that she holds a Juris Doctor degree from Yale Law School, where she graduated magna cum laude. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Even John Baxter's smug expression faltered. Sarah turned to him slowly, not with anger, but with quiet conviction. "I may wear a uniform, Mr. Baxter, but it's not for show. It's a symbol of service. And today, that service is to justice." The courtroom was silent now, no whispers, no laughter. John's lawyer shuffled his notes uncomfortably. "Your Honor," he said, his voice cracking slightly, we weren't made aware of this." "I can see that," the judge replied coldly. But it wasn't just Sarah's credentials that silenced the room. It was what came next. She reached into her briefcase and pulled out photos, grainy, heart-wrenching images of Walter Grayson in a hospital bed. Then others, him sitting on a bench in the rain after his eviction, clutching a box of medals. And finally, a handwritten letter. This, Sarah said, holding it up, was written by Walter after the eviction. It was meant to be his suicide note. He felt discarded, forgotten. Like all his sacrifices meant nothing. Until someone reminded him that he mattered. She paused, letting the weight of those words settle. "I reminded him." There were tears in several eyes now. Even the stenographer looked away for a moment, blinking fast. Sarah's voice softened. "We talk a lot about honoring our heroes. We put up flags. We post hashtags. But what does that honor mean if, when the time comes, we can't even protect the roof over their heads?" She looked directly at the judge. "This isn't just about a house. It's about who we are as a country. About whether we believe that profit is more important than people. Whether we stand up for the vulnerable, or let the powerful laugh them out of their homes." The judge leaned back, visibly moved. The next hour blurred in a flurry of legal exchanges, but the momentum had shifted completely. By the end of the proceedings, the court ruled in favor of Walter Grayson. His home would be returned. And John Baxter would be investigated for unethical acquisition of veteran property, a charge that carried significant weight under federal law. As Sarah descended the witness stand, Walter stood in the back of the courtroom, leaning on a cane. His eyes were moist, and his lips trembled. The entire room rose in applause, not for her medals, not for her rank, but for her humanity. Outside the courthouse, reporters clamored for interviews. But Sarah declined them all. She wasn't interested in headlines. She walked quietly toward Walter, took his hand, and said, "Welcome home, sir." 1 month later, Walter sat on the porch of his newly restored home. Sunlight bathed the lawn where local veterans and neighbors had gathered to help repaint the fence and plant flowers. It was a community again. Not divided by class or title, but united by compassion. And at the center of it all stood a woman in uniform, no longer mocked, no longer doubted. Who had reminded them all of something too easily forgotten in modern life. That dignity is not earned by wealth, but by how we treat those who have given everything for us. No uniform, no rank, no medal means as much as a heart that refuses to walk past injustice. Compassion is the greatest authority one can hold, and when wielded with courage, it can silence even the loudest mockery.